Preservation is a part of our Norwegian heritage. Due to a challenging climate and difficulties in growing food, we had to get creative to make things last, whether it was clothes, food, or drinks. For us, preserving is much like improvement or perfection. What lies within the qualities of raw material we are working with? What can it become? How can we make it long-lasting and sustainable? How can we adapt a cradle-to-cradle mindset to our concept? So thank you so much for having us. When we first heard the word preserve, I thought of jam. Do they want us to talk about jam? We're not going to talk about jam, but we're going to talk about how we interpret the word preserve. So first, I want to talk about the people behind the brand. And when I say we, I mean I, because Camilla couldn't make it today, which is a shame, so you just have to bear with me. And I received her notes yesterday, so I'll do my best, but I need a script. So we both have a creative background in fashion and design. And knitting has always been an interest of ours. Camilla, she's worked for a long time, but she also started her own brand, Lokal Oslo, in 2014. She sells and designs knitwear patterns with a contemporary style. And me, myself, I worked as a designer for many years in commercial design and knitwear design. Worked for Hatletveit and Dale of Norway for a long time. And that's where I really opened my eyes to what you can do with knitwear, because there are endless possibilities. And at Dale of Norway, they also have, they produce their own styles in Norway, which is really, really good, because you can work hands-on with the design and the garments. And the results are, you don't have to relate to other countries, and the communication is much easier. So I would say that's a really big advantage. And we're not going to get around this without talking about our friendship, because we had known each other for a long time. And we were really into fashion, which I'm not sure illustrates that well from this photo. But this is taken in 1993, when the summer we first met. Camilla, she lived down south, and I had a summer house there, so we met through friends. And we realized that we shared the same weird interest in fashion, music, film, and other cultural preferences. As we grew older and went to school, it became clear that we still shared a common ground. Camilla studied art direction and graphic design, and I got a degree in fashion design. And we both reached a point in our career where we wanted to do something else, and we agreed it was time to realize our own brand, which is Coupon. Why did we want to do Coupon, and why do we have that weird name? So the name Coupon has always been a working title for the brand. We used to be inspired by post-war fashion, and the fact that you had to customize a lot of knitted garments or just clothing as a result of demand and rationalization. If something was worn out or broken, you would mend it. Even though we are not directly inspired by this anymore, we decided to keep the name, and we wanted to focus on women's knitwear. Coupon can be associated with something provident and has a nostalgic ring to it that suits our brand philosophy. It's straightforward and it's wholesome. It represents good values and a sober approach to what we're doing. It's also a name that we can use in future settings to embody our sustainable profile. A little bit about our brand philosophy. So we want to work in different fields of sustainability. This is our goal. It's not like we work with all of it now. But we want to collaborate with companies that share our mindset, and we want to leave as little footprint as possible. We wish for full transparency and build a brand with good products that make unique quality products. So all the garments in this collection, they're unique because they are knitted by individual women all around Norway. We see a tendency and a demand for hand-knitted garments that are distinctive but still has an anchorage in fashion. We want our brand to have an organic growth, and we need to do this step by step. Hand-knitted garments are all one of a kind, and this is something we'll always have in our collections. Also, this is a trade that has been passed on throughout generations. We want to preserve that knowledge. I found some information about when we started knitting in Norway, and actually it was back in the during the Viking Age. During the Viking heydays, the sailors would wear woolen cloaks and woolen tunics, leggings, socks, mittens, and hats. And they would be made by a technique called nålebinding. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's like knitting, but one needle, very similar to what we do today. Also, wool was the chosen material for the boats and the sails. So outfitting a big warship and its crew might have required as much as wool from more than 1,000 sheep. It took land and farming skills to raise the sheep that supply the wool and a support network of mostly women whose spindles and looms produced the cloth. Knitting as we know it was not common in Northern Europe until after the Viking Age. And back then you also knitted out of a need to keep warm for transport or just a practical need. Today knitting is more of a hobby and the need to create. It's also a big trend that seems to stick with us. For us as a brand, it makes sense to create something that is close to our culture and climate, but also use natural materials, as we have the sheep's wool in Norway, so it makes sense for us to use them. This is also why we decided to enter the market with a brand that has a different twist. Selling ready handmade garments, we want to conserve the handcraft of knitting, but at the same time make it contemporary and cool. So a little bit about how what materials we use and the design we have. We use mostly natural materials. We choose to work with this because a lot of wool is mixed up with acrylic and nylon, and we really like to use the wool that comes from Sandnes Garn, which is our supplier. Norwegian wool, which is made from Norwegian sheep, is known for its strength, bounce, and high quality. We also work with wool from alpaca and mohair. To improve the designs we are working on, it's really important to find the right yarn. So we spend a lot of time sourcing the right quality and the right color. To work with hand knit gives us a lot of opportunities. We don't want to be the obvious brand and relate to seasons. So we can release something whenever it suits us. We have production in Norway, so it takes only a couple of weeks to have it made. And this way we can also release news between seasons. And I myself believe that I would wear wool all year round. And I think a lot of Norwegians do that. We're used to wearing wool all year round. And it's more controllable when we do it this way, and it's more sustainable. And we can make limited editions or small scale or even bigger scale productions. And what is really important for us also is we work with women. We're all women. And this is a picture from India, where we have the next production we do on hand. And both in Norway and the upcoming production in India is done by women. This is an active choice we made. We want to empower women in the world, much dominated by men. And these are the women knitting our sweaters in India, and they're doing it as we speak, which is really interesting. The production in India is made by something called Coco Global, and Coco stands for Knit One, Change One. They're knitting hubs that consist of women, and in their village, girls do not receive an education. They grow up and become women with no employment prospects other than seasonal labor work, depending on their father or husband for financial security. By bringing women together to work outside their home and away from domestic duties, earning a stable income, Coco is a part of changing lives, and that is something we applaud and support. This is a part of a sustainable business model that is forward-thinking and with lots to gain for all parts involved. We also have a production in Norway, and we have about 25 women who knit for us in Norway. And to engage them, every knitter has to sign the hang tag. This is how we will also give further life to the garment. And you can see there's a real person that puts time and effort into this. It's really rewarding to work with the women in Norway, and we still learn a lot. Some of them are really, really skilled, and they will give us feedback on whatever we do wrong. So we keep learning all the time, even though we thought we were quite good at knitting. Apparently, we're not that great. So this is like a give and take sort of thing, and we develop much more expertise, which is really good for us. Every piece has a personal signature and gives the garment added value. And the knitter also takes ownership to the garment. So how do we work with the development? So we both knit the prototypes for the collection. We start off with lots of images and a theme we're working on. And then we're looking at finding the right color and yarn. And like I mentioned, we work together with Sandnes Yarn, which is our supplier. The challenge is often to find something they don't have in stock. But normally we always end up with a bit of compromise and a good result. And then we work with inspiration as well. That can be anything, but this time it was we happened to find some muses from the past that we used to look up to. And I don't know, you all probably heard of Yoko Ono, but I don't know if you all heard about Molly Ringwald. Well, that was back in the 80s. She was huge. She was really one of my biggest icons. She played in movies such as Pretty in Pink and Breakfast Club. Yeah. And it was all about, the red hair and the cool styling. And if you see the styles that we are directly inspired by, you can see the link here. So Molly is inspired obviously by the sort of college look with the stripes and the sportiness of it. And we wanted to keep some of that pink because it's Molly Ringwald. But we mixed it up with a bit of blue and purple, so it became melange. And then Yoko is obviously, it's a kimono, but just a knitted kimono, which is really, it's quite contemporary, but at the same time it's quite traditional. So, ethics. We want to work as sustainable as possible. And I think that when we established Coupon, we wanted to stand out and do something different. Introducing a new clothing brand today is really, really hard. There's competition, it's tough. You need to know about marketing, PR, distributing, production, development, administration. Also, you need to know about future trends and consumers. Considering our background, we both have a lot of experience, but still there are a lot of things we don't know. So we believe in making smaller productions, and ethical production and future life to the garments. So we try to relate to this circle here, which is many ways of working sustainable with a brand. We do number one there, we do a bit of demand and custom made. It's definitely DIY, but we also do some pre-order now for the next collection coming up. We work with mostly green and clean natural materials. We present high quality and we have timeless designs. And we work also with our collaborators with the fair and ethical trade. So there's always something you could do better, but I believe part of working sustainable is to have a big focus on it and do something rather than nothing. So, considering all we've done for the past year, we've had different collaborations and some things have worked and some things haven't. And at one point you're bound to do something wrong and fail, and I had to admit that we did that, so I'm going to tell you about that. We had some projects that didn't really result in anything. We really encouraged social entrepreneurship for women. We had some women in prison knitting for us. That was interesting. It took a lot of time and effort to work out a good way of doing that, but it ended up with, well, it didn't result in anything. We also worked with a community of women from other ethnical backgrounds and with no formal education, and they were going to do they were going to develop the styles for us, and that was also something that it didn't really work out, maybe, because we weren't able to follow the production and step by step sort of teach them how to do everything we thought they knew how to do. So I just think that it's important to see you put a lot of time and effort into this, and even though it didn't turn out to be anything, we still learned a lot from it. And one of the things we learned was that we found a community of knitters through Facebook and Instagram, and those are the 25 knitters we have now, which are working really well today. So, another corny picture of us. And thank God there is, if you notice in the front there, knitting. So we were knitting geeks back then as well. This is Camilla and myself, and my parents. So, like I mentioned, we both have a common interest in knitting. and it felt like a natural way to go and a natural way to extend our friendship to become business partners. It also helps us preserve our friendship. We have gone through different changes this past year, and we need time to get to know each other as professionals. So this is a very personal thing as well. I believe it's made our professional friendship even stronger because we've had to face and endure some challenges along the way. And sometimes you get feedback on things you don't really want to hear it. You know, it's not that comfortable to hear the truth all the time, but it's also very healthy. And we also talked about what is the worst that can happen, and I believe the worst that can happen is probably that our friendship will fail, so that's not an option. The brand can fail. We don't know that. We can't look into the future. But also starting a brand is scary because we are most likely to fail at something. So this is definitely slow fashion. I mean, it goes without saying, knitting stitch by stitch takes a long time. And it's also knowledge handed over from generation to generation. And this is, I mean, I really had to dig into the family album here, but this is Camilla's mom, her name is Magni, and my mom, her name is Lee. So in Norway, mostly women have been knitting for generations. And old patterns get a new life with customization and modern looks. And we really appreciate tradition. The tradition of knitting and the craft to preserve and improve. And these are our role models when it comes to handcraft. We learned knitting from them, and we're very nostalgic about our childhood. And the designs we make for Coupon, I think it bears a really strong signature of that. It's also, we think they had really great style. I mean, I have lots of pictures from my mom when she was younger, and she looked pretty cool. So that was a good role model. Also, they learned us to mend our clothes and to make them ourselves. So it's only natural that we started working with this as well. We appreciate the hard work behind every garment they taught us how to make. And this sounds really tacky, but we want to pay it forward by keeping this tradition, and it's a tribute to our moms. So sorry for that. So what happens next? This is an image from our next collection. It's being made, like I mentioned, in India at the moment. It's also being hand knitted. So we're going to keep on developing this, but we also want to introduce different types of knitwear. So we want to end up being good in all levels of knitwear, fine knit, like mid-layer knit, chunky knit. But we always want hand knit to be like an essential part of Coupon, an exclusive line. So we wish to build the brand step by step and make sure we don't compromise on design and quality. So to sum it up, for us, preserve means to improve and perfect what is already there, the craft, the material, and the people. Thank you.